Hey friends, it's 90 degrees outside. It's very hot, but it's still time to start our August seed planting for our fall garden, believe it or not. We'll be going over that today, at least phase one of 3 phases I'm going to be doing videos on. And this first phase, I'll be showing you what plants to put in now to get your best harvest and get it in before your first frost date. And I'll be giving you tips on some varieties that you can try in your own garden. And this is the first of a series of 3 videos that I'll be walking you through the fall plantings. So come plant with me. Let's dive in. Just make sure you don't have sticks like this in there. You see that in your seed starting mix, because some of the seeds will get in the way and they won't pop up through that. So I try to make sure seed mix is nice and fluffy and light and soft, and a little bit of perlite mixed in there so that there's a little better drainage and aeration in the soil for the seedlings to come up. And I'm putting in just a little bit to the top, and then I'm going to water them in. You always want to make sure your seed, when you're planting seeds, that your soil is damp, kind of well watered beforehand, and you can hit it with water again afterwards, but at the beginning, so you don't make the seeds kind of float around and flood, you want to make sure that you water the soil that you're going to be planting the seeds in ahead of time. And make sure this one's pretty full, because I'm going to be putting tomatoes in this seed mix here. A lot of times when you buy these peat pots, they come with these little tiny, you can see those little tags there, and you can put them in so you know what you planted. That a lot of seeds, when they first start to grow, you don't know what they are, because a lot of brassicas look exactly alike, so that kind of helps keep you organized. I'm just going to water this soil down before I plant my seedlings. Get it nice and soaked. Let it sink down in, and then go back and water it one more time. Just do it very lightly. So I recommend the contender bush beans. Those are the ones I'm going to be planting first. Normally I would plant these direct sow right out in the garden bed and into the ground garden, but it's been so hot and sometimes there's been a lot of rain, so I'm going to plant them in these peat pots. But the good thing about these is that these are biodegradable, and beans don't like to be disturbed once you plant them. So what you need to do is, if you're going to do it that way and you don't want to worry about disturbing the roots, is put them in peat pots and let them grow, the seedlings. Then when you're ready to plant them out, and you can thin them out so there's just a couple in each one. And when you're ready to plant them out, you just dig a hole in wherever you're going to put these, whether it's a greenhouse or your raised bed or out in your garden. And you dig a hole, and I just usually tear the top, put it in the hole, and then just put dirt around the rest so that the seedlings are kind of even with the soil. And that way, any plants that you want to plant and you don't want to disturb the roots, you can plant them in here instead, and then just plant the whole pot into the garden, and then this will degrade and feed your soil and break down, and your plants will do very well. So that's a good option if you want to regulate your seedlings a little more, or if you don't want to put them out because there's still a lot of bugs out. And that's kind of another reason I'm doing it this way, is there's a lot of pest pressure still. In another few weeks, that'll be starting to slack off a little bit because of September. A lot of the pests start to hibernate and it gets a little cooler. So this way I can have them on a table in my back porch. You could put the dome over it if you don't have a screened in area, and keep them outside and have a more like half shade, half sunny area, or a lot more just really bright light. when they're very first growing, and they will still pop up above the soil. I have found this is the best way to ensure that once I have seedlings, they'll when they pop up, they won't get attacked by cutworms and all the different things that can happen to them. And out in the garden, they have a fighting chance to get at least big enough where they can fight these things off on their own. So right now, I'm gonna plant the contender bush beans and also the jade. They're very prolific. They grow extremely well. You will get tons of green beans, and there's enough time. It's about 45 to 60 days before you'll get a harvest from these. So from 9B where I am right now, it's the beginning of August. I have plenty of time before it starts getting cold here and or I have any frost in the middle of December. So I'm getting another round in, and these freeze very well. That's why I use this kind, uh, jade and contender, and they freeze super well. I usually just put two in here, two piece in each one, just to make sure that if they do not germinate, both of them, then at least one of them will come up. And put it about ½ inch into the soil. Just push it down with your finger. Take these and just push it down, just like that. Just push it down a little bit with your finger, and then cover it with soil. And then these are the jade green beans, bush green beans. I'm going to put two of those in each one. And when I write down the kind that it is on the front, and I write the date that I put the seeds in the back, just so I can keep track of what I planted and when. Cover it up with soil. And then once I get that finished, I'm going to water these again. The soil is already damp, which kind of ensures a better germination. So it's nice and damp already. And I'm just going to water it a little more just to make sure until they germinate and pop up. And then you can probably regulate it from there a little better. I wet this soil from above when I plant them, but after that, when the soil looks a little dry, I'm going to pour into the bottom here in this tray, and that way the roots will be encouraged to grow downwards and it'll build stronger roots. And that way you won't get that little disease that comes up on top. It looks like a fuzzy kind of mold fungus that grows sometimes on top if you water it from the top. So this helps kind of keep that at bay. And now I'm going to put a little water in the actual container here. In about 45 to 60 days, these will be ready to harvest, but they normally pop up within 3 to 5 days. I usually make sure they're about this tall before I plant them out into the garden wherever they're going to go. We're also going to be planting, they're called tomato super sauce. They're very large paste tomatoes. They make wonderful sauce. They're very disease resistant. They're a hybrid variety. And I'm just going to sprinkle a couple on top here. You're just going to sprinkle them just about 3 or 4 and lightly cover them with the soil. These are the Pisano tomatoes. They like to grow in the fall. They like the cooler weather. I just put a few in each one. I'm putting 2 rows of these because I want a lot for tomato sauce. And these are going to come up in about 10 days to 2 weeks. Tomatoes sometimes take a little bit longer to germinate, especially when it's hot outside, but just keep them damp and in a protected area as far as not too hot, and they should germinate pretty quickly. And now I'm planting my cherry tomatoes. These are Tarangina F1 hybrid variety. They're very compact. They don't grow very large, and they're good for inside greenhouses or in pots or on your back porch if you want something that's a little more compact. And they grow pretty quickly. So I'm going to put in a row of these, and then I'm going to plant them out in my greenhouse. And I put about 4 in each one just to make sure, because once in a while tomatoes don't always, when in the heat especially, sometimes they have trouble germinating. So I just make sure I have enough seeds in each in each one so that if some of them don't come up, then you make sure that you get plants. I'm also going to plant the Sun King variety of broccoli. I plant these first normally in August because they don't mind the heat as much as other broccoli do. So those would tend to be the first ones that I put out in the garden. So I plant these seeds first. You scatter them on top, but just cover them with a little bit of soil. I'm also going to put in the Copenhagen early cabbage, scatter them on top. All the brassicas, the broccolis, cauliflower, cabbages in that family, Brussels sprouts, the seeds all look pretty similar, and when they are germinating, they germinate pretty quickly. They come up within usually 5 days. They look very similar when they're growing, so I made sure that I put my little tags in here. You could see the little white tags, so I knew what each one was, because at the beginning it's like a mystery plant until it comes up and matures enough. You really don't know what you planted sometimes, so it's always good to be organized. And I also planted today my kale, and this one is the blue Scottish curled kale. It can germinate when it's a little bit warmer like this, so I normally get the kale started. They can handle the summer a little bit better. Red Russian, same. They take a little while to germinate, not too long though. They pop up fairly quickly, but then once it cools off, they'll grow fairly quickly, and you just keep them watered as well, and not too much sun at the beginning because it is pretty hot out still, being that we're still in August. And I did plant some more of I put in some more cucumbers. We'll get another round of these before the December 15th frost date here in 9B, Zone 9B. If you're further north from me, if you're in Zone 8, then you can start all these things about 2 weeks earlier than I can. If you're, as far as fall planting, if you're south of me in zone 10, then usually you're 2 weeks after me. So you could do all the same things, but it's just a little bit of a shift as far as time goes. You start either 2 weeks earlier or 2 weeks later, but you do everything exactly the same. And then I already planted these seeds today, also the cucumbers. The next round I'll be planting and doing a video is more of my brassicas, lettuces, and onions, the bulbing onions, the spinach and the sugar pea, snap peas, and rutabagas, the root vegetables. Those I'll wait a little longer into September because they require a little bit cooler weather than we're having right now, and they won't germinate very well. So they'll be the next round of things that I do. So I'm going to cover these up with the cover, and I'm going to keep these tops open here on each one for airflow. And I'm going to put these in a protected area where they get bright light and a little bit of sun, possibly in the morning, and then not too much sun the rest of the day, just until they germinate and get big enough to be able to handle a little more sunlight. And then once they start popping up, then I'll let them grow a few inches tall in a few weeks, and then we'll be planting them out in the garden. I hope you found this video helpful and it encourages you to get out there and plant some of your own seeds for your fall garden. It is a great time to start. The weather has been a little challenging this year, but if you have the right tools to help you start your garden, you'll have a successful garden and harvest this year. If you have any comments or questions, please put them below. I'd love to hear from you. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. And until next time, go out and make yourself a great day.